The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a sound like thunder. Sarah Chen stepped through them, her heart beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. Behind her walked 3 other humans, all wearing the same dark blue uniforms with Earth's symbol on their shoulders. They looked very small in the huge room filled with alien beings. The chamber was bigger than any building Sarah had ever seen. The ceiling was so high she could not see where it ended. Strange lights floated in the air like tiny stars. Around the room sat creatures that looked nothing like humans. Some had too many arms, others had skin that glowed, and some did not look like they had bodies at all. Sarah had practiced this moment 1,000 times, but now her mouth felt dry. She carried a small device that held all of Earth's hopes. Inside it were pictures of the asteroid field racing toward her home planet. Inside it were numbers that showed how many people would die. Inside it were the desperate plans her people had made to try to save themselves. The High Arbiter of the Veltar floated above the center of the room. Zefkol looked like a tall human made of blue light, but Sarah knew better. The Veltar were older than human civilization. They had been traveling between stars when humans were still learning to make fire. "The Earth delegation may speak," Zefkol said. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Sarah walked to the center of the room. Every step echoed in the vast space. She could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching her. Some looked curious, others looked bored, and a few looked like they thought humans did not belong here at all. She activated her device, and pictures filled the air above her head. The first image showed Earth from space, blue and green and beautiful. Then came the pictures that made her stomach hurt to look at. A field of rocks the size of mountains, all heading straight for her home. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Sarah began. Her voice sounded small in the huge room, but the speakers made sure everyone could hear her. 18 months ago, our scientists found something terrible heading toward Earth. An ancient weapon left behind by a race we do not know was activated somehow. It pushed a huge asteroid field out of its normal path. Now these rocks are going to hit our planet. She showed them more pictures, computer models of what would happen when the asteroids hit. Cities disappearing in flashes of light, oceans boiling, the sky filled with dust and fire. 2 billion people live on Earth, Sarah continued. We have tried everything we can think of to stop this disaster. Our best scientists have worked for months without rest. Our engineers have built the biggest rockets we have ever made. But we cannot move rocks this large. We do not have the technology. The room was very quiet. Sarah could not tell if the aliens were interested or just waiting for her to finish. "We are asking for your help," she said. "We know that many of your civilizations have technology that could easily move these asteroids away from Earth. We are not asking for this help for free. We will trade anything we have. We will work for you. We will do whatever you ask. Please, we just need someone to help us save our people." Sarah touched her device again and new images appeared. These showed human cities, human art, human children playing in parks. She wanted the council to see that Earth was more than just another planet. It was home to billions of living beings who laughed and cried and dreamed just like people everywhere. "I know that Earth is new to this council," Sarah said. "I know we have only been observers here for a few years. I know our technology is not as advanced as yours. But we are alive. We think and feel and love our families. We have music and stories and art. We have so much we want to share with the galaxy if only we get the chance to survive." She stopped talking and waited. The silence seemed to go on forever. Finally, Zefkol spoke. "The Earth delegation has made its request clear. This matter will now be discussed by the council members." What happened next made Sarah's heart sink like a stone. One by one, representatives from different alien civilizations stood up to speak. None of them said they would help. The Krogan Empire spoke first. Their representative looked like a giant lizard wearing armor. "The Krogan do not waste resources on primitives," he said in a voice like rocks grinding together. "If Earth cannot defend itself, it deserves whatever happens to it." The Synthesis Collective came next. Their speaker was a machine that looked like a metal spider with too many legs. "This council exists to serve its full members," the machine said in a voice with no feeling at all. "Earth has observer status only. Observers observe. They do not make demands." One after another, the alien civilizations gave their reasons for not helping. Some said it would cost too much. Others said it would set a bad example. A few said they simply did not care what happened to a primitive species like humans. The worst part was how some of them talked about Earth like the humans were not even there. They discussed the Earth problem like they were talking about bad weather or a broken machine. Some even laughed when they talked about humans trying to move asteroids with their simple rockets. Sarah felt tears starting in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. She had to be strong. She had to try one more time. "Please," she said, standing up again. "You have the power to save 2 billion lives. It would be easy for any of you. Just move the asteroids a little bit. Change their path by just a few degrees. That is all we need." But Zephkol was already calling for the vote. "All in favor of providing assistance to Earth?" the High Arbiter asked. Not a single hand, claw, tentacle, or mechanical arm was raised. "All opposed?" Nearly every member voted against helping Earth. "The matter is settled," Zephkol announced. "The Council will not intervene in Earth's situation. We suggest the human government begin evacuation procedures or consider relocating their population to other worlds." Sarah could not believe what she was hearing. They were telling her people to just leave Earth behind like it was an old house they did not want anymore. "You could save us," she said, her voice breaking. "All of you could save us, and you are choosing not to. You are choosing to let 2 billion people die." "The Council has spoken," Zephkol said coldly. "This session is ended." As the aliens began to leave the chamber, Sarah stood alone in the center of the huge room. She felt smaller than she had ever felt in her life. But as the sadness and fear began to fade, something else took their place. Something hot and hard and angry. She looked up at the few council members who were still there, watching her with what might have been pity or amusement. "You will regret this," she said quietly, but in the vast chamber her words carried clearly. "Humanity remembers those who help us in our darkest hours. But we also remember those who turn their backs on us when we need them most. We remember everything." Some of the aliens paused when they heard her words. A few even looked worried for a moment. But then they continued walking away, already forgetting about the primitive species that had dared to ask for their help. Sarah Chen gathered her team and left the chamber. Behind her, the great doors closed with the same thunderous sound. She did not know it yet, but she had just witnessed the biggest mistake the Galactic Council would ever make. Earth would remember. Earth would always remember. 18 months had passed since Sarah Chen stood in the Galactic Council chamber and begged for help. 18 months of desperate work, sleepless nights, and impossible dreams. Now, as she stood on a hill overlooking what used to be New York City, she could see that all their efforts had not been enough. The asteroids had come, just as the scientists predicted. Humanity's last desperate plan had worked partly. They managed to break up the biggest rocks with nuclear weapons launched on rockets that should not have been able to reach that far. But partly was not enough when dealing with something this big. Where the city used to stand, there was now a crater filled with dark water. The ocean had rushed in when the asteroid hit, and it had never gone back out. Millions of people had lived there once. Now there were only memories and graves. Sarah pulled her coat tighter against the cold wind. The weather had been strange ever since the impacts. Dust in the sky blocked some of the sun's light, making everything look gray and dim. Scientists said it would get better in a few years, but Sarah wondered if anything would ever look bright again. Behind her, she heard footsteps in the dead grass. She turned to see Dr. Marcus Webb walking up the hill. Marcus had been one of Earth's best physicists before the impacts. Now he was something else entirely. His eyes had a hardness in them that had not been there before, and his hands were always stained with chemicals and metal dust. "The numbers came in from the Pacific settlements," Marcus said when he reached her. 300 million confirmed dead. Maybe more. Sarah nodded slowly. She had expected the number to be high, but hearing it still felt like a punch to the stomach. 300 million people. 300 million mothers and fathers and children who had died because the galaxy's most advanced civilizations could not be bothered to move a few rocks. "How is the work going underground?" she asked. Marcus smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had found a way to hurt the people who had hurt him first. "Better than we hoped," he said. "It turns out that when you tell human engineers that alien technology is impossible to understand, they take it as a challenge. We have teams working around the clock in 17 different facilities. Some of the things we are building would have seemed like magic 2 years ago." Sarah knew about the underground facilities. When it became clear that the asteroids could not be stopped, governments around the world had built huge shelters deep in the earth. The plan had been to save as many people as possible and rebuild when the danger passed. But something unexpected had happened in those shelters. Instead of just hiding and waiting, the survivors had started building. They had taken apart every piece of alien technology they could get their hands on. They had studied it, figured out how it worked, and then made it better. The same desperation that had driven humanity to attempt the impossible during those last 18 months was still there. But now it was mixed with something else. Anger. Pure, burning anger at the civilizations that could have saved Earth but chose not to. "Show me," Sarah said. Marcus led her down the hill to what looked like the entrance to an old subway tunnel. But when they got inside, Sarah saw that it went much deeper than any subway ever had. They walked for 10 minutes through tunnels carved from solid rock before they reached the first security checkpoint. The guards recognized Marcus and let them pass without question. They walked through more tunnels, past rooms full of humming machines and workshops where sparks flew from welding torches. Finally, they reached a vast underground chamber that took Sarah's breath away. The room was as big as an airplane hangar, but instead of planes, it was filled with things that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie. Strange metals bent into impossible shapes, machines that seemed to be made of light instead of solid matter, weapons that made the air around them shimmer like heat waves. "We call this project Remembrance," Marcus said. "Everything here is based on technology we have stolen, bought or borrowed from the species that turned their backs on us. But we did not just copy their designs. We improved them." He led her to a table where a device the size of a briefcase sat humming quietly. It looked simple enough, but Sarah could feel something wrong about the space around it. The air seemed to bend and twist in ways that hurt to look at. "This is based on the same gravitational technology that moved the asteroid field in the first place," Marcus explained. "We reverse-engineered it from pieces we found in the wreckage of an old Veltar ship. But where their version could only push things, ours can do much more." He pressed a button on the side of the device, and Sarah watched a metal ball on the table rise into the air. But it did not just float. It began to stretch and twist like putty, even though it was made of solid steel. "We can tear apart their ships from the inside," Marcus said with that cold smile. "We can make their weapons explode in their hands. We can turn their own technology against them." Sarah stared at the device. Part of her was amazed by what human ingenuity had accomplished, but another part of her felt scared. This was the kind of weapon that could destroy entire civilizations. "Marcus," she said carefully, "what exactly are we planning to do with all this?" His smile got wider, but his eyes got colder. "We are going to remind the galaxy that humanity does not forget," he said. "Every species that voted against helping us, every representative who laughed at our suffering, every civilization that could have saved us but chose not to. They are all going to learn what happens when you abandon Earth in its hour of need." He turned off the device, and the twisted metal ball fell to the table with a clang. "But we are not going to be like them," Marcus continued. "We are not going to just destroy things for no reason. We are going to be smarter than that. We are going to take apart their little galactic club piece by piece. We are going to free every species they have been keeping down. We are going to share every technology they have been hoarding. And when we are done, the galaxy will never again watch in silence while an entire civilization begs for help." Sarah looked around the chamber at all the impossible machines, all the weapons that should not exist, all the technology that humanity had built from scratch in less than 2 years. She thought about the 300 million graves scattered across Earth's surface. She thought about the children who would never grow up, the parents who would never see their families again, the dreams that had died in fire and dust. "When do we start?" she asked. Marcus checked his watch. "The first ships launch in 6 months. We have been very careful not to let anyone know we survived this well. As far as the galaxy knows, Earth is still struggling just to feed its people. They have no idea what we have been building down here." He gestured to the weapons and machines around them. "They wanted to see what primitive humanity could do when pushed to the edge," he said. "Now they are going to find out." Sarah nodded slowly. She thought about her speech to the Galactic Council, about how she had begged them to help save her people. She remembered the casual way they had dismissed her, like human lives meant nothing at all. Well, they were about to learn that human lives meant everything to humans, and humans had very long memories. The galaxy had made its choice 18 months ago. Now humanity would make theirs. Captain Elena Vasquez floated in the command chair of her ship, watching the Veltar supply convoy through the main screen. The alien ships looked like giant crystals drifting through space, beautiful and graceful. Elena did not care how pretty they were. She had a job to do. Stealth systems are holding steady, reported her weapons officer, Lieutenant Park. They still do not know we are here. Elena nodded. The ship around her was humanity's first real starship, built in the hidden factories beneath Earth's surface. They called it the Retribution, and it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Where alien ships were built for beauty or intimidation, the Retribution was built for one thing: war. It had been 5 years since the asteroids hit Earth. 5 years since the Galactic Council turned their backs on humanity's desperate plea for help. In that time, the galaxy had mostly forgotten about the primitive species that had dared to ask for assistance. Earth had gone quiet after the disaster, and most aliens assumed the humans were either dead or too busy rebuilding to cause any trouble. They were wrong about the second part. Target the cargo containers, Elena ordered. Remember, we want the supplies, not the ships. We are not killers like they are. The Retribution moved closer to the convoy, still invisible to their sensors. Humanity had learned many things from studying alien technology, but one of the most useful was how to hide. The stealth systems on Elena's ship used principles that even the Veltar did not fully understand. All ships, this is Captain Vasquez. Elena broadcast to the small fleet following her. Begin the operation. Around the convoy, space began to shimmer as more human ships decloaked. The Veltar vessels immediately began broadcasting distress calls and powering up their weapons, but it was too late. The humans had surrounded them completely. Attention, Veltar convoy, Elena announced on an open channel. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earthship Retribution. You are carrying medical supplies bound for the Corvani system. We are taking those supplies. Do not resist and no one will be hurt. The response came quickly from the lead Veltar ship. This is Commander Selthera. You dare attack vessels of the Galactic Council? Your primitive species will pay dearly for this aggression. Elena almost laughed. Primitive species. They still thought of humans that way, even after everything that had happened. Commander, Elena replied, 5 years ago, my people begged your council for help when our entire civilization was about to be destroyed. You voted against helping us. 300 million humans died because you could not be bothered to move a few rocks. So forgive me if I do not care much about your laws anymore. She cut the communication channel and turned to her crew. Take the cargo containers. Leave their ships intact but disable their engines. I want them to be able to call for help, but not to follow us. The human ships moved with precision that surprised even Elena. Every member of her crew had lost someone in the asteroid impacts. Every person on every ship in her fleet had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not come home. They were not fighting for money or territory. They were fighting for revenge, and that made them very dangerous. Within an hour, the Veltar convoy was drifting helpless in space while the human ships disappeared back into the darkness between stars. The cargo containers they had taken contained medicines that would have cost a small planet's entire yearly budget to buy legally. Elena planned to distribute them to species that the Galactic Council had been ignoring. Set course for the Epsilon Relay, Elena ordered, and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them Operation Needle is complete. Operation Needle was just one of dozens of similar missions happening across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing everywhere, striking fast and disappearing before anyone could respond. They never killed anyone if they could help it, but they took everything that might be useful. Technology, information, resources that the Council kept locked away from younger species. But the most important thing they stole was data. 3 days after the convoy raid, Elena's ship approached a Veltar science station hidden in an asteroid field. This was not about supplies. This was about secrets. Remember, Elena told her boarding team as they prepared to transfer to the station, we are not here to destroy anything. We are here to liberate information. Every piece of data you can download, every research file you can copy, every secret they have been keeping. Take it all. The station's defenses were impressive by normal standards, but normal standards did not include humans who had spent 5 years studying every weakness in alien technology. Elena's team cut through the station's shields like they were made of paper. The Veltar researchers inside the station barely had time to understand what was happening before human soldiers in advanced armor were moving through their corridors. The humans did not hurt anyone, but they were very clear about what would happen if the aliens tried to stop them. All research data on gravitational manipulation, Elena ordered as her team reached the main computer core. All files on faster-than-light travel. Everything about their medical technology. If it is on this station, I want a copy. The download took 6 hours. When it was complete, Elena's team had stolen the equivalent of 3 centuries of Veltar scientific research. Technologies that could revolutionize medicine, engineering, and space travel for dozens of species, but Elena was not planning to keep the information for humanity alone. Broadcast everything on open channels, she ordered, as her ships prepared to leave. Every frequency, every network, every communication system in this sector. Make sure everyone gets a copy. Within hours, the stolen research data was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had been begging the Galactic Council for advanced medical technology suddenly had the blueprints delivered to their computers for free. Young civilizations that had been told they were not ready for faster-than-light travel found detailed instructions in their message boxes. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the Council's authority. For centuries, they had maintained their power by controlling who had access to advanced technology. They decided which species were ready for new discoveries and which ones had to wait. Now suddenly their monopoly was broken. Emergency sessions were called on dozens of council worlds. Representatives who had been comfortable in their positions of power suddenly found themselves facing angry populations who wanted to know why their governments had been keeping miracle cures and revolutionary technologies locked away. Sir, Lieutenant Park reported as the Retribution headed for its next target. We are receiving communications from 17 different species. They all want to know who we are and how they can contact us. Elena smiled. This was exactly what they had hoped for. The galaxy was starting to wake up to the fact that the Galactic Council was not as benevolent as it pretended to be. Send them coordinates for the neutral meeting point in the Vega system, Elena replied. Tell them that representatives of the Earth Liberation Fleet will be happy to discuss mutual cooperation. Earth Liberation Fleet. Elena liked the sound of that. It made their mission clear. They were not conquerors or pirates. They were liberators, freeing the galaxy from the control of species that thought they were better than everyone else. The next target was a Krogan military depot. Elena was looking forward to that one. The Krogan representative had been particularly cruel during the council session, where Earth begged for help. He had actually laughed when he talked about primitive humans trying to move asteroids with their simple rockets. Elena wondered if he would still be laughing when she was done with him. All ships. This is Captain Vasquez, she broadcast to her growing fleet. More ships joined them every day as word spread that someone was finally standing up to the Galactic Council. Next target is confirmed. Let's go remind the galaxy that primitive humanity has learned a few new tricks. Behind them, the Veltar science station sent out desperate distress calls, but no help was coming. The human ships had jammed all the hyperspace communication relays in the system before they attacked. The galaxy was about to learn that ignoring a desperate plea for help had consequences, and humanity was very good at making sure those consequences were remembered. Admiral James Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Earth's Wrath, watching the massive Krogan military station grow larger on the main screen. Beta 7 was supposed to be one of the strongest fortifications in the galaxy, guarding the hyperspace routes that led to the galactic core. The Krogan had built it to last forever, with shields that could stop entire fleets and weapons that could destroy planets. Morrison was about to prove them wrong. All ships report ready. Admiral, came the voice of his communications officer. Around him, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. These were not the same humans who had begged for help 7 years ago. These were the survivors of Earth's darkest hour, forged into something harder and more dangerous than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Morrison touched a control on his command chair, and the space around the station began to shimmer as dozens of human ships decloaked. The Krogan had been watching for attacks, but they had been looking for ships that followed the old rules of warfare. They had not expected an entire fleet to appear out of nowhere. This is Admiral James Morrison of the Earth Liberation Fleet. He broadcast on all frequencies. Krogan Station Beta 7, you are ordered to surrender immediately. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. The response came quickly in the grinding, angry voice that all Krogan used when they were ready to fight. This is Commander Vexcol of the Krogan Empire. We do not surrender to primitives. You will die for your foolishness, humans. Morrison had expected that answer. The Krogan never surrendered, never negotiated, never showed mercy. They were exactly the kind of species that would vote against helping a dying civilization and then laugh about it afterward. Very well, Morrison replied. You had your chance. He turned to his weapons officer. Begin the demonstration. What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The human ships did not attack the station with conventional weapons. Instead, they used technology that the Krogan had never seen before, weapons that turned their own defenses against them. The station's massive shield generators began to overload as gravitational distortions tore them apart from the inside. Weapon systems that had been designed to be indestructible simply stopped working as their targeting computers were hacked by programs that should not have been able to exist. Within an hour, Krogan Station Beta 7 was defenseless. Its weapons were offline, its shields were down, and its communication systems were under human control. The supposedly impregnable fortress had been reduced to a helpless target without a single shot being fired. Now, Morrison announced, we talk. He activated the main communications array and began broadcasting on every frequency, to every ship, every planet, every listening station within 100 light years. What he said next would change the galaxy forever. Attention, all civilizations. This is Admiral James Morrison, speaking for the people of Earth and the Earth Liberation Fleet. 7 years ago, my people came before the Galactic Council with a desperate plea for help. Our world was about to be destroyed by an asteroid field that had been knocked out of orbit by an ancient weapon. We asked for assistance. We begged for someone to help us save 2 billion innocent lives. Morrison paused, letting his words sink in across the galaxy. He knew that millions of beings were listening to this broadcast, including the members of the Galactic Council who had dismissed Earth's request so casually. The Council voted unanimously against helping us. They said we were too primitive to matter. They suggested we simply abandon our homeworld and find somewhere else to live. Some of them laughed at the idea that humans could save themselves. On the screen, Morrison could see Krogan reinforcement fleets beginning to arrive at the edge of the system. Let them come. He had prepared for this moment for years. 300 million humans died when those asteroids hit Earth. 300 million mothers, fathers, children, artists, scientists, dreamers. They died because the galaxy's most advanced civilizations could not be bothered to move a few rocks. He activated another system, and suddenly, the space around the station was filled with floating message buoys. Each one contained complete recordings of the Galactic Council session where Earth had begged for help. Every cruel word, every dismissive laugh, every vote against saving an entire species. These recordings contain the complete transcript of that council session. You can see for yourselves how your leaders responded when faced with the chance to save innocent lives. You can hear them laugh at our suffering. You can watch them vote to let an entire civilization die rather than spend the effort to help. The message buoys began broadcasting their contents on every frequency, ensuring that every inhabited world in the sector would receive copies. Morrison knew that within days these recordings would spread across the entire galaxy. We survived, Morrison continued. Barely, but we survived. And in the years since then, we have learned some very important lessons. We learned that the galaxy is not ruled by the wise and benevolent leaders we thought we were meeting. We learned that the Galactic Council maintains its power by hoarding technology and keeping younger species dependent on their goodwill. The first Krogan reinforcement ships were entering weapons range now, but Morrison was not worried. His fleet had advantages that the enemy could not imagine. We also learned that we humans have a talent for understanding technology that others consider impossible to duplicate. In 7 years, we have gone from a primitive species to one capable of building weapons and ships that surpass anything in the Council's arsenal. We did this not through conquest or theft, but through the simple human refusal to accept that something cannot be done. Morrison smiled as he watched the Krogan ships charging toward his position. They were about to learn why no one should underestimate human ingenuity. But we are not here for conquest. We are here for justice. Every species that voted against helping Earth, every representative who laughed at our suffering, every civilization that could have saved us but chose not to, you will all face the consequences of your choices. The human fleet moved to intercept the incoming Krogan ships, and the battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human vessels that should not have been able to exist danced around Krogan battleships, tearing them apart with weapons that violated the known laws of physics. The Krogan had been the military backbone of the Galactic Council for centuries. Their ships were legendary for their toughness and firepower, but against human technology that had been forged in the crucible of desperation and refined by years of focused anger. They were helpless. "We call ourselves the Earth Liberation Fleet." Morrison continued broadcasting as his ship systematically destroyed the Krogan reinforcements. "We are here to liberate the galaxy from the control of species that think they are better than everyone else. We are here to share the technology that the Council has been hoarding. We are here to give every civilization the tools they need to stand on their own." Station Beta 7 was completely under human control now. Its Krogan crew confined to their quarters while human technicians downloaded every piece of military data in the station's computers. That information would be shared freely with every species that had been denied advanced defensive technology by the Council. To the members of the Galactic Council, I have this message. Earth remembers. We remember every vote against helping us. We remember every laugh at our expense. We remember every moment you could have chosen compassion and chose cruelty instead. Morrison looked at the tactical display showing the wreckage of the Krogan fleet. These had been some of the most feared warriors in the galaxy, and his people had defeated them without losing a single ship. You taught us that mercy is weakness, that the strong owe nothing to the desperate. Thank you for the lesson. We learned it very well. He gestured to his communications officer to end the broadcast, but then he thought of something else to add. One final note to any civilization that thinks they can stop us. We are not the same species that begged for your help 7 years ago. We are what you made us. We are humanity refined by suffering, tempered by loss, and focused by rage. We are the inevitable result of your cruelty. Morrison smiled as he watched the last of the Krogan ships explode in the distance. Earth remembers. Earth always remembers. And now, the galaxy will remember us. The broadcast ended and Morrison settled back in his command chair. The real war was just beginning. The war that followed Admiral Morrison's broadcast was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It was not fought on a few distant battlefields, while most civilizations went about their normal lives. This war reached into every system, every planet, every species that had ever been under the Galactic Council's control. Sarah Chen, now Secretary General of the Free Worlds Alliance, stood in the command center built deep beneath Earth's surface. Around her, hundreds of screens showed battles raging across thousands of light years. But these were not just military battles. They were revolutions. "Status report," Sarah requested, turning to her intelligence coordinator. 17 council member worlds are dealing with major uprisings, the coordinator replied. The information we released about their technology hoarding has caused massive civil unrest. The Andorian Republic has already withdrawn from the council entirely. 3 more are considering it. Sarah nodded. This was exactly what they had hoped for. The galaxy was finally waking up to the truth about their supposedly benevolent leaders. On one screen, she could see footage from the Veltar homeworld, where millions of their own people were demanding to know why life-saving medical technology had been kept locked away, while their family members died from treatable diseases. On another screen, younger species were celebrating as they received blueprints for faster-than-light drives that the Council had told them they were not ready to use. What about the Council's military response? Sarah asked. They are trying to coordinate a counterattack, but they are having problems. Half their member species are too busy dealing with internal revolts to send ships. The other half do not trust each other enough to work together effectively. That was another thing the humans had learned about the Galactic Council. For all their talk of unity and cooperation, the member species actually hated and feared each other almost as much as they looked down on younger civilizations. The only thing that had held them together was their shared belief that they were superior to everyone else. Now that belief was crumbling. "Ma'am," another officer called out, "we are receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Morrison's fleet." "Put it through," Sarah ordered. Morrison's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, Sarah could see the bridge of his flagship as it traveled through hyperspace toward their final target. "Sarah," Morrison said, "we are 6 hours out from Nexus Prime. All our allies are in position. The Corvani have provided 30 ships, the Epsilon Collective has sent 50, and we have recruitment volunteers from 43 different species. Total fleet strength is over 800 vessels." Sarah felt a mix of pride and sadness as she listened to the numbers. 800 ships crewed by beings from across the galaxy, all united in their determination to bring down the system that had oppressed them for so long. It was everything she had dreamed of when she first stood before the council and begged for help. But it had taken so much death and suffering to get here. "What about the council's defenses?" she asked. "They have activated the Star Killer weapon," Morrison replied grimly. "Intelligence suggests they are planning to use it on Earth if we do not withdraw immediately." Sarah felt ice in her stomach. The Star Killer was the council's ultimate threat, a weapon that could make an entire sun explode and destroy every planet in a solar system. It was what they used when they wanted to make sure that no one ever forgot the price of defying them. "Admiral," Sarah said carefully, "are our countermeasures ready?" Morrison smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "Dr. Webb's gravitational mirrors are in position. We have been placing them for months, using stealth ships to position them around Nexus Prime's star. If they try to use the Star Killer, the energy will be redirected back at their own fleet." Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. Marcus Webb had died 2 years ago in a Krogan attack on one of their research stations, but his final invention might be the key to ending this war. Gravitational mirrors that could bend the path of energy weapons, turning them back on whoever fired them. "The irony is perfect," Morrison continued. "They built the Star Killer to threaten civilizations that could not fight back. Now it is going to destroy them instead." "Admiral," Sarah said, "I want you to give them one last chance to surrender. Broadcast to the entire galaxy what we are offering. Complete technological freedom for all species. An end to the hoarding of knowledge. A new galactic government based on cooperation instead of domination." "And if they refuse?" Sarah thought about the 300 million graves on Earth. She thought about all the species that had been held back by the Council's policies. She thought about the children who had died because medical technology was kept away from the people who needed it most. "Then we remind them that humanity keeps its promises," she said. "Good luck, Admiral." 6 hours later, the largest fleet in galactic history dropped out of hyperspace around Nexus Prime. The sight of 800 ships from dozens of different species, all working together, was something that had never been seen before. The galaxies rejected and oppressed had finally united. High Arbiter Zefkul's voice came over the communication channels, filled with the same arrogant certainty that Sarah remembered from 7 years ago. "This is madness," the Veltar leader announced. "You cannot destroy the order that has kept the galaxy peaceful for millennia. Withdraw now or face the consequences." Admiral Morrison's response was calm and steady. "High Arbiter, this is your final chance. Surrender the Star Killer weapon. Dissolve the Council's monopoly on advanced technology, and agree to the establishment of a free galactic government. Otherwise, we will remove you from power by force. You dare threaten us? We who brought civilization to the stars?" Zefkul's voice was filled with rage now. "Very well. If you will not listen to reason, then you will burn with your pathetic homeworld." The Star Killer began to charge, drawing energy from Nexus Prime's sun itself. Sarah watched from Earth as gravitational sensors detected the massive weapon powering up. In a few minutes, it would fire a beam that could turn Earth's sun into a supernova. But Marcus Webb's gravitational mirrors were ready. "All ships," Morrison broadcast to his fleet, "execute Operation Reflection." The mirrors, invisible until now, suddenly revealed themselves as they began to bend space itself around Nexus Prime. The Star Killer's energy beam, meant to travel across the galaxy to destroy Earth, found its path twisted and redirected. The Council members had just enough time to realize what was happening before their own ultimate weapon turned against them. The Star Killer's beam, carrying enough energy to destroy a solar system, struck the Council fleet with devastating force. In seconds, the most powerful military force in the galaxy was reduced to glowing particles. As the light faded, "Admiral," Morrison's voice carried across every communication channel in the galaxy. "Citizens of all worlds," he said, "the Galactic Council is finished. Their fleets are destroyed, their leaders are dead, and their monopoly on technology is broken forever. Today begins a new age for our galaxy, an age where knowledge is shared freely, where no species is considered superior to another, and where desperate pleas for help are answered with compassion instead of cruelty. Sarah Chen listened to the Admiral's words from her command center on Earth. Through her windows, she could see the first rays of sunlight breaking through the clouds that had covered the sky since the asteroid impacts. For the first time in 7 years, the weather was starting to clear. To any remaining Council loyalists, Morrison continued, you have a choice. Join us in building a better galaxy, or follow your masters into history. But understand this, Earth remembers. We remember every species that turned their back on us when we needed help. We remember every vote against saving innocent lives. We remember every laugh at our suffering. He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of every human who had died in the asteroid impacts. But we also remember those who helped us, the few species that tried to speak in our favor, even when they knew it was hopeless. The individuals who sent us supplies and information in secret. The young civilizations that offered what little aid they could. These are our allies now, and we will never abandon them the way we were abandoned. Sarah smiled as she listened to the Admiral's final words. This was what she had dreamed of when she first stood before the Council. Not revenge, but justice. Not conquest, but liberation. The galaxy is free, Morrison announced. Free to grow, free to learn, free to help each other when help is needed. This is our gift to the stars, paid for with human blood and human determination. The broadcast ended, and Sarah looked out at the clearing sky. Somewhere out there, on thousands of worlds, billions of beings were receiving technology that could transform their civilizations, medical cures, energy sources, transportation methods that had been kept from them for centuries were now freely available to anyone who wanted them. The galaxy would never forget what had happened here. They would remember that humanity had risen from near extinction to reshape the stars themselves. They would remember that a species dismissed as primitive had proven to be more advanced than any of their former masters. Most importantly, they would remember that when the next desperate species came begging for help, the answer would not be cruel laughter and dismissive votes.